Have you ever felt frustrated, wondering why the things that you are doing don't seem to be creating positive change in your life? Have you considered if you look far enough, you just might be able to find the answer? The principle of the foundation. As discussed in the principle of the harvest, you reap what you sow, later than you sow, more than you sow. Well, now we're going to talk dirty. Can you handle that? Today we're going to talk about dirt. Before the wheat field, before the seeds, there was, that's right, dirt. When this farmer started, there were 4 kinds of soil. See, right through the middle of the field, there was a walking path, and the soil had been stomped down to the consistency of concrete. On one side, there was an incredibly rocky area. By the trees, you had a lot of blackberry vines, and on the other side, there was nice, loose dirt. Well, the first year, the farmer felt that he was short on time, so the only thing he did was hitch the seed planter to his tractor and start sowing seed. Some of the seed landed on the walking path, which the songbirds loved, because before the seed could take root, the birds swept in and ate all of it. Some of the seed landed on the rocky soil. Now, that area didn't really look any different at first because the plants started to grow. But all it took was a couple of hot days to kill the plants off because, well, rocks don't hold water. Some of the seed landed there in the blackberry bush area. Those plants started growing great, but the thorns around them grew faster and choked the life out of that area. And the seed that landed on the nice loose dirt grew and made a nice little harvest. Yeah, kind of little. I mean, this farmer found that in spite of his efforts, only 25% of his efforts rewarded him. Now, I hate to tell you this, but you're going to find the exact same thing in your efforts to grow business. Without proper preparation, you will find yourself having to use the phrase, some will, some won't, so what? A lot. Some will, some won't, so what? It's not a bad phrase, but it sure would be nice to not have to say it very often. Well, the next year, the farmer doubled his efforts. He went through the drudgery of removing all the rocks from that area of the field. It was hard work, and it sucked. He plowed and plowed and plowed the field. He plowed through the convenience of the walking path, tearing up the concrete-like resistance. He plowed under the thorns and the brambles that choked the life out of the hope of reward. His preparation time took way longer than his planting time. Oh, I almost missed a step. The farmer got himself into some deep poo. Literally. Have you ever been driving through the beautiful farm country on a hot day, looked out at the field, and you've seen those fantastic, massive sprinklers and thought, man, it would be fun to run through that and cool down? They are spraying liquefied poo. It's all poo. Stay out of it! Sometimes, preparation is a stinky, nasty, and unpleasant job. Ask the farmer, though. He was willing to dig through the poo of life and was blessed with a bountiful crop because of it. A songbird was caught by surprise, and before he could migrate south, there was an early freeze and he found himself frozen to the ground. As he began feeling like he was freezing to death, a large cow was walking past and dropped a huge cow pie on his head, buried him. The heat of the steaming cow pie thawed him from the ground and warmed him all the way through. And as he revived, joy coursed through him and he started singing. A passing tomcat heard the singing cow pie, stopped and unburied the bird and set him free, and then ate him. Remember, when you're in deep poo, it's often best to keep your mouth shut. And those who come along saying they can get you out of deep poo may not have your best interest at heart. Well, take a tip from this farmer. The soil is the foundation of his crop. The poo was necessary, and even though it was an unpleasant part, it was required for success. The winter harvest that he received started with the backbreaking hard work that he was willing to put in to build the foundation that made it all possible. I love the view from a high-rise building. There is so much beauty that you can take in all at once. Amazing. But let's look at this building from a totally different view. That's right, we're going back to the dirt. Two developers wanted beachfront property. So, one developer had his front steps actually touching the surf waves. He found some very impressive hardpack and built his house right on top of it. Nobody had a view or ambience that could compare. The other developer dug through the filth and the dirt and the garbage further back up the shoreline, digging down until he hit bedrock. I mean, he was still trying to get his roof on while the other developer was throwing his first beach party. In other news, with the first coastal storm of the year, a local builder suffered calamity as his house was completely destroyed by a rainstorm. He lost everything. Well, it seems pretty obvious that the foolish builder set himself up for failure right now in your life. Business, personal, physical, spiritual, emotional life. Which builder are you? Now this view from an ocean high-rise, how did it start? Down in the dirt. Foundations are truly remarkable. What do you want your business success to look like? Well, what do you want your personal life, relationships, spiritual light, your impact in this world, what do you want that to look like? They must be balanced. The size, scope, and impact of what you are building in your life will be determined entirely by your foundation. The wise builder dug down to bedrock. Then he built his foundation. If you want to know what happens when you build your foundation on anything but the rock, ask the foolish builder who lost everything. When you're asking what size your foundation needs to be, ask yourself, what do you want the end result to look like? I mean, you can actually have your foundation done in one day, working all by yourself. If you're building an outhouse. Now, an outhouse has its purpose, but it usually only impacts one person at a time, and the odds are you are the first in line. Remember the idea that time is a relative thing? I've also heard it said that the true length of one more minute is determined by which side of the locked outhouse door you're on. There's a couple of funny stories that could go here. I think I'll move on. Yeah. How many lives do you want to impact? An outhouse helps one person at a time. A house, it only needs a foundation that's 1 to 2 feet deep, and it helps a family or two at a time. If it is your intent to build something of strength and duration, and something that will impact the lives of hundreds or thousands of people, you are going to have to go deep. The Petronas Towers in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia are 1,483 feet tall and have a foundation that is 394 feet deep. The building is nearly 40 stories tall before it's even taller than a sidewalk. Nobody looks up at a building and says, "Wow, what an amazing foundation." Somebody, a whole lot of somebodies, worked their tails off to build a massive structure that no one sees. Because the foundation was built, those towers rise nearly 1,500 feet up into the sky. Awesome. If you want to rise to the sky, you have to start in the dirt. How do you establish the principle of the foundation in your life? Project your impact. Start with the end in mind. If you want your legacy to be an outhouse, your preparation is going to be comparatively easy. Everything you do creates an impact on someone. The question you need to ask yourself, what do you want your impact to be? Project your impact. Speak the vision as you intend it to be. Plan your foundation based on your projected impact. Now, what is included in your plan? Heart. What are you passionate about? You must be operating out of the passion that drives you, or when things get tough, you will lose all motivation. If your heart is not in it, the it doesn't matter. Your head. Are you committed for the long haul? One of the most powerful words is the word decide. Every action we make, we decide to do. Good or bad. We decide, then we do. Decide to project your impact. Decide to pursue and complete your foundation. Your hands. Your impact, your plan, your work. Your hands must be in up to your elbows in your own success. And the good news is, you don't have to do it alone, unless you decide to be alone. In 1974, the great philosopher and lyricist Hoyt Axton penned the words, "Work your fingers to the bone, what do you get? Bony fingers, bony fingers." What a stupid song! It's probably the tune the foolish man was humming while he built his house on the sand. A spiritually and emotionally healthy heart leads to healthy, disciplined mind, which then guides healthy hands. Decidedly disciplined, determined actions. It was Ralph Waldo Emerson who said, "Sow a thought, and you reap an action. Sow an act, and you reap a habit. Sow a habit, and you reap a character. Sow a character, and you reap a destiny." Project your impact, plan your foundation, persevere to your destiny. Paul said, "I do not consider that I have made it on my own. This one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind and straining forward to what lies ahead, I press on toward the goal." Your foundation is started by digging down to bedrock. You have to clear out the dirt, the landfill, and the garbage of the past, all the stuff that will weaken your foundation. You can't make bedrock. Those who seek it, find it. Ask and you will receive. Seek and you will find. No company in the world started a foundation by clearing out the junk and then dumping it back into the hole. It's dug out, packed out, and they make progress. And watch out, sometimes as you are making progress, those who you thought were on your side start showing otherwise by their actions. In a small village, a donkey fell into a dry well. Its owner, who valued it, gathered all the neighbors to try to get it out. Well, after days of failure, the owner stated that, the donkey was pretty much past his prime anyway, so the best thing to do was probably just take care of 3 problems at once by shoveling a nearby mountain of manure into the well, eliminating the donkey dilemma, filling the well, which clearly was a hazard, and getting rid of the mountain of poo. The neighbors all lent a hand, and everyone began tossing shovelfuls of manure onto the donkey. Every time poo landed on the donkey, he would just shrug it off and keep circling the bottom of the well. The faster everyone flung poo, the more the donkey would just shrug and keep walking in circles. This continued until the exhausted group had filled the well, and the donkey just walked right out onto solid ground. Shrugging off the poo being flung by those around you and persevering in your pursuit of destiny will ultimately set you free. Project your impact, plan your foundation, persevere to your destiny. Forget what lies behind, strain forward to what lies ahead, press onward to the goal. Coach those that are around you while you are still in process. Mentor, uplift, and encourage those around you, starting right now. Project your impact, plan your foundation, persevere to your destiny, and you will be living the principle of the foundation.